A young woman inherits a house left by her deceased father, but it turns out that the house contains something terrible. A woman wearing a head covering who lives in the basement, hidden and out of reach. At the beginning of the film, there is a young man named Neil coming to a pub that has been standing for years. Neil begs the man who owns the pub to visit a woman who is in the basement, but the man named Owen does not allow it. Even though Neil has given him a lot of money, Owen still does not allow Neil to meet the woman. Neil only wants to meet his wife, but still Owen refuses. Owen drives Neil away, then he goes to the basement while preparing something. It seems he will meet the woman. Owen wants to burn the house and the woman, but unfortunately, Owen himself is the victim. Owen is burned until he does not survive. While on the other hand, there are two young women named Iris and Katie. Iris enters his apartment illegally because she has actually been evicted from there. Iris cannot pay the rent. Iris just wanted to take some of her stuff, helped by Katie. They were both students who were struggling to graduate. Then not long after, Iris got a call and got news that her father had died in an accident. Iris went to the hospital where her father's body was. And it turned out that Iris' father was Owen. The hospital could barely recognize him because 90% of his body was burned. Iris was then approached by a man claiming to be Owen's lawyer and acting on the inheritance left by Owen. The lawyer said that Owen left an inheritance for Iris in the form of a pub and a house. Iris never knew that her father had a place this big, a pub that stood strong from year to year. Iris and the lawyer went into the place to look around. Iris also found a door hallway with lots of photos on the left and right. The lawyer wanted to help Iris sell the inheritance that Owen left to her, but Iris changed her mind. Iris wanted to occupy it first, and then she would think about what to do next. A decision that was quite surprising, but Iris did it because she needed a place to live. Iris called Katie to tell her that she was staying in her father's inheritance. It looked quite haunted, but it was better than Iris not having a place to stay. Katie would come to see Iris tomorrow. She had already booked a ticket. That night, Iris slept there and heard the sound of an alarm coming from the basement. Iris woke up trying to find the source of the sound. Iris approached the brown door, then suddenly she seemed to see a man's figure behind it, and it turned out to be Neil. Neil scared Iris. Iris thought Neil would hurt her, but it turned out not to. Neil just wanted to meet his wife in the basement. Neil's request was enough to confuse Iris. There was no one here except her. Neil kept saying that there was a woman in the basement of the house. Neil didn't even hesitate to pay Iris with quite a lot of money, as long as Neil could meet the woman. Iris was tempted by the money offered by Neil. Iris accepted the offer, but Neil couldn't do it tonight. So Iris asked Neil to come back tomorrow because she had to find the key. Iris went to her father's lawyer and signed the will of ownership of the house. Iris wrote her name in black ink under her father's name. The lawyer then gave Owen many of his belongings, including the key to the basement door and a cassette tape. The next day, Katie came and was skeptical about Iris' decision to stay in the house. Not long after, Neil came to collect on Iris' promise. That night, the three of them entered the basement. There was a chair in the middle of the room. Neil began to call the woman's figure from a large hole in the wall. Neil called repeatedly, but there was no answer or anything. Iris even felt that this was just a joke, but a few moments later, the figure appeared from the hole, walking unsteadily using a head covering. Neil tried to talk to her and wanted the figure to introduce Neil to his long-dead wife. But the figure did not obey Neil's words. Instead, she went towards Iris. When Iris asked her to stop, the figure stopped. That was a sign that the figure was obeying Iris's words. Here Neil realized that Iris was the new owner of the house. That was why the figure only obeyed Iris's words. Neil asked Iris to tell the figure to sit on the chair. After that, Neil tried to talk to her while giving the figure a ring so that Neil could talk to his deceased wife. The figure began to react, but what appeared was not his wife, but Neil's mother. Neil should not have met his mother. Neil and his mother's relationship did not go well. Even his mother also said that she regretted giving birth to Neil into this world. The figure can indeed revive a dead person, but only for 2 minutes. After that, he will become very wild. Neil and Iris have to cover their heads with the head covering. Then Iris tells him to go back into the hole. The incident made Iris and Katie not want to meet the figure again. It is dangerous for their safety. But Neil returns to offer more than before. Iris remembers that her father left a cassette tape. The recording talks about what happened in the house. Even Owen has warned Iris not to contact the basement figure. Otherwise, things will happen that are not wanted by the owner of the house. The figure only obeys the words of the owner of the house. Iris is that person now. The figure gets stronger if the owner uses it. When that time comes, the owner of the house will no longer be able to fight or subdue the figure. Katie wants Iris to leave the place right now, but Iris refuses. She has no other place to live. The next day, Iris comes to Neil while Katie is at home looking for information about the previous owner of the house. Iris seemed tempted by Neil's offer, so she invited Neil to use the figure again to be able to talk to his wife, named Sarah. Unfortunately, Neil didn't want to say goodbye, but wanted to know what Sarah was doing behind his back. Neil suspected Sarah was cheating. They fought and Sarah decided to leave using her car. Unfortunately, the car Sarah was driving had an accident. Neil didn't have time to find out the truth because Sarah changed back into the figure. Iris didn't seem to want Neil to go back there, but Iris also wanted to use the figure and see what happened to her father before he died. Owen had spoken to his late wife. Their relationship was not good. Owen even neglected his wife when she was sick. Is Owen a bad person? The longer and more often Iris talked to the figure, the more tortured she was. Iris and Katie went to her father's lawyer, but his office was empty. Where did he go? Was Iris trapped? Katie tried to find information about the previous owner of the house before Owen. She got a lot of information, and it might be useful for Iris. Meanwhile, Iris again used the figure to talk to her father. Iris seemed to be fooled by the figure. Even though Iris burned the will of the signature, but failed, Katie, who had just returned from looking for information, looked for Iris but couldn't find her. She searched the basement and was surprised by the figure who had escaped from its nest. Katie dropped the information she brought from the house of a person who once owned the house named Otto. The figure ate the sheet of information and then turned into Otto. Otto explained what really happened. In the past, the figure was a woman who could use spells to revive the dead. Unfortunately, the woman's power was misused by irresponsible people. The woman was burned and killed, but she was still alive, until finally she was buried alive in the wall until now. The woman will take revenge on the people who took advantage of her powers. And after that, Katie was the closest victim. Iris woke up from fainting and got a message from Katie. Iris looked for Katie in the basement. Iris went in and looked for Katie. At first she thought she found Katie, but it turned out that Katie had died. The figure changed to resemble Katie and tried to kill Iris. Luckily, Neil came and helped Iris get out of there. Neil, who initially only wanted to talk to his wife, turned out to be dissatisfied. He wanted to control the woman by killing the current owner of the house, meaning he had to kill Iris. Unfortunately, after killing Iris, Neil had another problem. If he wanted to have the woman, he had to be a descendant of Iris. The problem was that Neil was not from their descendants. The figure changed into Iris and killed Neil. The woman was now free and alive in the form of Iris, looking for people who wanted to use her powers.